नमस्ते। आज का दिन इम्पोर्टेंट इसलिए है कि 16 दिसंबर को अधिकृत रूप से जो पाकिस्तान की फोर्सेस थी उन्होंने सरेंडर किया था इंडियन फोर्सेस के सामने। ये एक ऐसा फीट है कि सेकेंड वर्ल्ड वॉर के बाद 93,000 लोगों ने बिना एक तरह से मतलब इतनी फोर्सेस रहने के बाद भी भारत की सेनाओं के सामने आत्मसमर्पण अपने में एक बड़ी बात थी। इसमें बहुत से लोग हैं, बहुत से लोगों का रोल है, पूरे देश इसके पीछे खड़ा था, लेकिन कुछ लोगों का नाम लेना इसलिए ज़रूरी है कि आप सब ने उन लोगों ने वो फ़ोटो देखी होगी जिसमें जनरल नियाज़ी और जनरल अरोड़ा ये इंस्ट्रूमेंट ऑफ सरेंडर साइन हो रहा है और वो वहाँ ढाका में बैठे हैं। लेकिन इसमें बहुत से लोगों का अहम किरदार है। मैं जल्दी से 2-3 नाम ले लूँ। एक जनरल जैकब हैं जो उससे पहले गए ढाका में, उन्होंने नियाज़ी को कन्विंस कह लीजिए या वहाँ तक पुश किया कि उनके पास सरेंडर के अलावा और कोई चारा नहीं था। जनरल सगट की बात कर लें, जनरल मानेक शॉ की बात कर लें, इस तरह से तमाम लोग हैं। मैं सबका नाम तो लेना संभव नहीं है, लेकिन कुछ ये हैं, उसकी डिटेल्स आपको काफ़ी कुछ पता भी होंगे। लेकिन मैं कुछ चीज़ें ज़रूर आपके साथ शेयर करना चाहूँगा कि ये करीब 93,000 लोग जब हिंदुस्तान आ गए थे, उसके बाद आप सोच सकते हैं कि इनको जो जेनेवा कन्वेंशन के हिसाब से इनको वो सारी सुविधाएं देनी थी जो जनरली एक सैनिक को मिलनी ही चाहिए, और वो सुविधाएं दी गई। ऐसे भी किस्से हैं जब इंडियन फोर्सेस ने अपनी बैरक खाली की, वो खुले में सोई और POWs को उसने जेल के मतलब बैरक में रखा। ऐसी भी बहुत सी कहानियां हैं जहाँ पे जब बांग्लादेश से इनको लाया जा रहा था तो बांग्लादेश वाले नेचुरली इन्होंने वहाँ बहुत एट्रोसिटीज़ की थी, उन लोग को बहुत मारा था, वो गुस्सा थे और जिसको कहते हैं वो इस पे उतारू थे कि ये बच के ना जाने पाए। लेकिन इनको वहाँ से बचा के ला के हिंदुस्तान लाया गया, और कोई नोन अभी तक मैंने नहीं सुना है कि किसी पाकिस्तानी POW ने जाके पाकिस्तान में कभी कहा हो कि मेरे साथ इल ट्रीटमेंट हुआ था। नेवर। दूसरी बात ये थी कि इसके बाद एक बड़ा लैंडमार्क था शिमला एग्रीमेंट। शिमला एग्रीमेंट की बात मैं इसलिए कर दे रहा हूँ कि वो अपने में एक बड़ा विषय है, उसके अपने अपने पक्ष हैं, उसमें क्या अच्छा था क्या बुरा था, वो बहुत सी चीज़ें उसमें हैं। लेकिन 2-3 शिमला एग्रीमेंट के टेकअवेज मैं आपको बता दूँ। पहली चीज़ ये थी कि ऐसा कहा जाता है कि कहीं ना कहीं एक अंडरस्टैंडिंग थी, भुट्टो की एक शर्त थी शेख मुजीब को छोड़ने के समय, अनकही शर्त, अनरिटन, जिसका कोई दस्तावेज नहीं है, जहाँ पे उन्होंने ये रखा था कि हम शेख मुजीब को छोड़ तो देंगे, लेकिन जब हमारे जो ये आप सरेंडर की हुई हैं फोर्सेस, उनको आपको हमें छोड़ना होगा। नंबर 1। नंबर 2, एक चीज़ और जान लीजिए कि ये जब लोग ये छोड़े, जब इनको एक्सचेंज किया गया, जब हिंदुस्तान ने छोड़ा, और जिसको कुछ लोग कहते हैं कि ये नहीं छोड़ना चाहिए था और हार्श वो करना चाहिए था, तो एक चीज़ जान लीजिए, बांग्लादेश को तब तक पाकिस्तान ने रिकॉग्नाइज नहीं किया था। तो उस शिमला उसकी एक शर्त ये भी थी कि बांग्लादेश को पाकिस्तान ने अधिकृत रूप से रिकॉग्नाइज किया। मैं 1-2 छोटी बातें और बता दूं, फिर शिमला एग्रीमेंट पे कभी और वक्त रहा तो 2-4 दिन की उस पर भी चर्चा करेंगे। एक शिमला एग्रीमेंट का एक टेक अवे और है, जो ज़्यादातर लोगों को लगता है ना कि 13,000 स्क्वायर किलोमीटर हमने जीता और फिर हमने वापस कर दिया पाकिस्तान को वेस्टर्न बॉर्डर्स पे। लेकिन ये भी फैक्ट है कि जो करगिल से लेके आप अगर नुम्रा तक चलिए, इस बीच में जो बाल्टिस्तान का एरिया है या वहाँ है, वहाँ हमने कुछ जगह हैं जो जीती, वो हम वापस नहीं किए हैं। ये नहीं लिखा जाता है हिस्ट्री में, बताया नहीं जाता है हिस्ट्री, और ख़ास करके आज की तारीख में तो बिल्कुल नहीं बताया जाता है, क्योंकि ये लगता है कि उसका श्रेय लेने से वो कहीं किसी और को श्रेय मिल जाएगा। तो हम उतने बड़े दिल के, जो हमारी पॉलिटिकल लीडरशिप है, वो इस समय नहीं रह गई है कि किसी और को उसका श्रेय दे। लेकिन ये फैक्ट है कि 71 वॉर में हमने बहुत से एरियाज़ कैप्चर की और उनको वापस नहीं की हैं। ये जो आपके दोस्त मित्र जो भी फौज में काम करते हैं उनसे आप इस चीज को चेक कर सकते हैं। जैसे सबसे बड़ा सरेंडर था तो इधर के दिनों में इतना बड़ा अत्याचार भी कहीं नहीं हुआ था। डॉक्यूमेंटेड है, इस तरह की बात कही जाती है कि 3 लाख से लेके 30 लाख लोगों के बीच में लोग मारे गए। 3 लाख से लेके 30 लाख, 3 मिलियन लोगों की का कत्लेआम हुआ। इस तरह की बात है कि वो पूरी रेस को चेंज करना का एक वो था। 2 लाख से 4 लाख महिलाओं का बलात्कार हुआ, और ये कोई वन एंड वो नहीं कि कोई वो करेंगे, ये ऑर्गेनाइज बलात्कार था, स्टेट स्पॉन्सर्ड बलात्कार था। पाकिस्तान की ने इसको स्पॉन्सर किया, पाकिस्तान ने कहा कि हम उनकी रेस को खत्म कर देंगे, ये वो बलात्कार था। तो बांग्लादेश हैज पेड अ वेरी हेवी प्राइस, अ वेरी हेवी प्राइस। इसको हरदम नहीं, और मैं इसको इसलिए कह रहा हूं कि किसी भी देश की आज़ादी का एक बड़ी कीमत होती है। आज की तारीख में कोई उठ के कह दे कि नहीं क्या कीमत चुकाए, कीमत चुकाते हैं। एक जो मैं आज जिनसे आपको इंट्रोड्यूस कर रहा हूं, लेफ्टिनेंट कर्नल काजी सज्जाद साहब हैं। कर्नल सज्जाद जो हैं, ये आपको जो अगले 20-25 मिनट में बांग्लादेश की हिस्ट्री इससे क्रिस्प, इससे टू द पॉइंट मुझे आज तक कोई नहीं मिला था जिसने समझाई थी। कर्नल सज्जाद का एक बड़ा रोल है। ये उस समय पाकिस्तानी आर्मी में थे, फिर ये भाग के इस समय वेस्टर्न पाकिस्तान में थे, फिर इन्होंने बॉर्डर क्रॉस किया। इंडिया में इनको इस पाकिस्तानी स्पाई समझा गया, लेकिन इन्होंने वो कुछ मैप्स और उस तरह के क्लासिफाइड इंफॉर्मेशन इंडियन आर्मी को दी, जिसकी वजह से हम लोग काफ़ी अंदर तक पेनिट्रेट किए थे वेस्टर्न बॉर्डर्स पे। फिर ये मुक्ति बाहिनी के साथ जुड़ गए, और जब देश आज़ाद हुआ और पिछले खास करके जब शेख हसीना अब जब बनी है बांग्लादेश की सर्वा, तब से इन्होंने एक बड़ा काम ये शुरू किया है कि जो भी बांग्लादेश वॉर में इंडियन फौजी ने अपने प्राणों की आहुति दी है उसको रिकॉग्नाइज करना, उसको रिस्पेक्ट देना। बांग्लादेश गवर्नमेंट की तरफ से शेख हसीना इसको वो कर रही हैं, ड्राइव कर रही हैं, लेकिन उसके कर्ता धर्ता ये हैं। इनको इस प्रयास के लिए भारत सरकार ने पद्मश्री से सम्मानित भी किया है। और मैं 2 छोटी सी बात करके इस बात को समाप्त करके कर्नल सज्जाद को आपके सामने पेश करूंगा। एक इम्पॉर्टेंट बात ये थी, और वो इसलिए क्योंकि उससे आज हमें कल समझने में आसानी हो जाएगी। बांग्लादेश 16 दिसंबर को आज़ाद हो जाता है, लेकिन बांग्लादेश यूएन में 17 सितंबर 1974 में उसकी एंट्री होती है, 3 साल बाद करीब। और उसका एक कारण है, सिर्फ एक कारण है, क्योंकि चाइना 72 में और 73 में जब भी ये इनके सदस्यता की बात आती तो उसको वीटो करता था, पाकिस्तान के कहने में। मैं ये बात सिर्फ आपसे इसलिए कह रहा हूं कि हम एक समय बांग्लादेश हमें बड़ा भाई मानता था, बांग्लादेश को हमने विश्व इतिहास में ऐसा नहीं है कि हम ये आप पढ़ लीजिए पूरी हिस्ट्री। सैनिक, हिंदुस्तानी सैनिक बांग्लादेश गए हैं, 16 दिसंबर के बाद विड्रॉ किए हैं, और ऐसा कहीं नहीं हुआ है कि विड्रॉइंग फोर्सेस ने एक भी आदमी का बाल बाका नहीं किया, उन्होंने प्रोटेक्ट किया है। तो हमारे ऐसे रिश्ते जहां पे बांग्लादेश हमें मानता है कि हमने किया है, चीन जो उनके अगेंस्ट था, जो उनका दुश्मन था, आज चीन किन्हीं भी कारणों से धीरे धीरे बांग्लादेश से उसकी नजदीकियां बढ़ रही हैं। तो आप चीन को गाली देते रहिए, आप पाकिस्तान को गाली देते रहिए, लेकिन आप अपने गिरेबान में ना झांकिए। तो कहीं ना कहीं हमें अपनी गलती या हमें किस तरह से एक्ट करना चाहिए था उसको भी देखने का समय है, क्योंकि सारी चीज़ें बंदूक से नहीं तय होती हैं। डिप्लोमेसी कुछ होती है, फॉरेन अफेयर्स कुछ होता है, कुछ चीज़ें टेबल पे बैठ के भी ठंडे दिमाग से तय होती हैं। उस पर हमें बहुत काम अभी मुझे लगता है करने की ज़रूरत है। मैं इसके बारे में कल परसों में फिर से एक बार बात करूँगा, क्योंकि 3 से 16 के बीच में कोई ऐसी बात नहीं करना चाह रहा था जो कंट्रोवर्शियल हो। कुछ कंट्रोवर्सीज हैं जो उसके बारे में बात करेंगे, लेकिन अभी ओवर टू कर्नल सज्जाद साहब, जिनका अद्भुत बातें कही उन्होंने। आप इसको सुनिए। जय हिंद, जय बांग्ला।
नमस्ते, गुड इवनिंग, जय बांग्ला, जय हिंद।
I have a very distinguished guest with me today. I have Lieutenant Colonel Qazi Sajjad Ali Zahir Sahab, who served with Bangladesh Army, uh, who also got the Padma Shri Award this year. He, I have asked him and I have requested him. मैंने आपसे आग्रह किया है, मैंने आपसे दरखास्त की है कि आप थोड़ा कार्यक्रम में आए और बांग्लादेश का जो मुक्ति संग्राम है, बांग्लादेश का जो स्वाधीनता संग्राम है, उस पर थोड़ी चर्चा करें. Colonel Sahab will be basically talking in English and at times if required in Bangla. वो हिंदी समझ सकते हैं लेकिन हिंदी उनकी बहुत शुद्ध नहीं है, तो वो इसलिए थोड़ा उनको हिचकिचाहट है, बट वी कैन कंटिन्यू इन इंग्लिश. Colonel Sahab, welcome to the show, and it is a very proud moment for all of us that you all are here, and India and Bangladesh has a common thing from last 50 years back. Bangladesh, the liberation of Bangladesh, the Swadhinta Sangram of Bangladesh, the freedom struggle of Bangladesh, and the supreme sacrifice by your leaders was ultimately the Bangladesh was created. So tell me something about the freedom struggle of Bangladesh, how it started. Okay. We all know how the West Pakistan never respected the democracy, the mandate of the people.
Let's go back a little bit to the end of the British period. In 1945, when after the failure of the Cripps mission, cabinet mission came up, they decided that India will be given independence and there would be an election to hand over the power. 21 provinces took part in the election. Main contenders were Mr. Jinnah, which is Muslim League, and Gandhiji, which is Congress, and we had Krishak Proja Party of Shere Bangla A.K. Fazlul Haq, a very prominent peasant leader. He also took part, and other small parties. And in the election, out of 21 provinces, 19 provinces voted for Congress. 2 provinces voted for Jinnah. Now, which provinces? Number 1, Sindh. Sindh is his birthplace, his hometown, and he is very popular in Sindh, yet he only got a majority by 3%. And in Bengal, Muslim League got a majority of 80%. History is a very fascinating entertainer. Punjab didn't vote for Muslim League. Pathans didn't vote for Muslim League. Baluchis didn't vote for Muslim League. Only Sindhis, but narrow margin, which they lost before the independence of Pakistan. Now, let's come back to the facts of the entire situation, the facts behind the entire situation. Why did Muslim League get the majority by such huge number in Bengal? Because it's very unfortunate that in 45 there were big riots all over India, much more in Bengal, West and East Bengal. A lot of people think that it was orchestrated by the British because they wanted actually division of India. Because there is only one state, powerful state, the British will be told to leave immediately. They have to pack up. If there are 2 states, they will fight among each other. Both will try to get the advantage from the British. So, at that time, Jinnah, a prolific speaker, popular man, he came to Bengal and he assured the people of Bengal 3 things. I will give you democracy, I will give you equal rights and I will give you solvency. The poor people of Bengal believed in Mr. Jinnah, and you must be knowing that slogan, "Karenge ya marenge, larke lenge Pakistan." So Pakistan was achieved. How? Because Jinnah went to the British Lord Mountbatten and told him, "My two nation theory is correct. The largest province, Sindh, is in my favor, and most populated, densely populated province, Bengal, is in my favor, rather East Bengal." So gladly, British decided to divide the country. People were very happy. They thought they'll get solvency. They believed in Jinnah actually. They'll get democracy. They'll get equal rights. But my friends, what you find out, slowly and slowly, within 23 years, Jinnah's Pakistan becomes a Kabristan for us. And you know, Kabristan is a graveyard. It's a very long tale. Deprivation, one by one, betrayal, one after one, lying, cheating, everything started taking place. Jinnah didn't keep his commitment. He didn't give us democracy. He declared himself as the Governor General oblique President of Pakistan without anybody's mandate. He made a cabinet of 30 members, out of which 6 were not even elected. There was not a single Bengali in the cabinet. After a lot of requests, they put in 2 members in the cabinet. One was Jaginder Mandal and another was Fazlur Rahman. But they had no position. He made a non-elected Urdu-speaking leader, Liaquat Ali Khan, Prime Minister. So we were little surprised. Then Jinnah, next step he did, he took over the power of Speaker of the Parliament, which is very undemocratic. Third thing, we are expecting that Dhaka would be the capital because 56.4% people used to live in East Pakistan. We call it East Bengal at that time. But Dhaka is a 400 years old Mughal city, traditional city. But he made Karachi, what you call a fisherman's village, into the capital because that's his birthplace. Then another crisis came, the state language. Jinnah, through his dear friend, the Vice Chancellor of Aligarh University, Dr. Muhammad Ziauddin Ahmed, who made a declaration that Pakistan is an Islamic state, Urdu is the language of Islam, and Urdu should be the state language of Pakistan. And mullahs from Karachi starting a fatwas, that's a religion of Islam. There is no difference between Arabic and Urdu, which is of course totally wrong. It's a lie. And if anybody opposes Urdu, he's a kafir. So these are the deprivation all started. Jinnah also manipulated to get a majority in the parliament by bribing out 6 parliament members from East Pakistan, all that we know. And Jinnah, when he was confident, he called for the session of the parliament on 21 February 1948. In that parliament, 21st February, he called for the parliament. On 23rd February, a very popular leader, Mr. Dhiren Datta, he was actually a Congress leader. He was deputy leader of Congress, very prestigious position he was holding, but his constituency was in East Bengal. From Brahmanbaria Kumilla, he was always being elected. He asked for Jinnah's permission that he would like to talk about the state language. Jinnah said, yes, I am giving you 30 minutes time on 25th of February. Dhiren Datta couldn't speak Urdu. He only could speak Bangla and English. He made a prolific speech. In that he said that we have struggled for Pakistan together. We have gained independence together. Mr. Jinnah has made a commitment to give equal rights. So, as we fought together, we become brothers. A nation's state language must be the language of the majority population. But you are our brothers. We must listen to the brothers. You want Urdu to be the state language of Pakistan. It doesn't cover under any rule. When Pakistan was made independent, you must know about this fact. Especially new generation must know about this fact. 56.4% people used to speak in Bangla, 25.9% Punjabi, 4.9% Pashto, 4.2% Sindhi, 4.1% Baluchi, and 3.9% Urdu. This was the language when minimum people spoke. But Jirendatta said, you are our brother, we must honor you, we will accept Urdu to be the state language of Pakistan. But there is a but. You have another brother, you have a brother in East Bengal who cannot speak English, Farsi, Urdu, Pashto, no language, only Bangla. So, if you do not give Bengali another state language, we will be ruined. There are many countries in the world which have more than two national languages. We can have two national languages. That was his proposal. And if you don't, what will happen is exactly like this. We won't be able to read any books, will not get any pass in any exam, will not get any education, will not be allowed to get any job, we will not be able to open a bank account, give a legal notice, even read the signboards, will be destroyed. So Jinnah gave this Bangla in vote. Very ashamed to report to you, out of 77 members, only 2 supported Bangla because all the votes were purchased. That's the tragedy of Bengal. Dhiren Datto and Prem Hori Barman, only 2 people voted for Bangla. Dhiren Datto was tremendously insulted and he was leaving the parliament with his heads down. He was humiliated. Prime Minister Liaquat Ali Khan screamed and told, Mr. Datta, I have smelled secession in your words. That day, first time, they used the word secessionist, and we actually became a secessionist. Jinnah came to Dhaka on March 19th. On 21st of March, in Ramna Racecourse Maidan, and on 24th in Curzon Hall of Dhaka University, in front of students, he screamed and said, Urdu and Urdu and Urdu shall be the state language of Pakistan. There was a dissatisfaction there. A few courageous student leaders started screaming, no, 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 we don't want Urdu, we want Bangla, we want Bangla. They were not listening to Jinnah's speech. He's the father of the nation. He was insulted. He left the meeting. Who are those young people? Fazlul Karim, a student from Barisal, Abul Hashem, a student leader from Dhaka, and Sheikh Mujibur Rahman, the student leader from Gopalganj, Faridpur. Pakistani intelligence officers once told me the young man who was the tallest, screamed the loudest, insulted Jinnah most. We had identified him. As a result, Pakistan intelligence was keeping a watch on him, and out of Pakistan's 23 years, Bangabandhu Sheikh Mujib was in jail for 11 years, 4 months and 20 days only. Jinnah came back Jinnah died on 11 September 1948. That's another story. My research says he didn't have a natural death. I can prove that, but that's another subject. Dhaka's leader Khaja Najimuddin was made into a governor general, but he was Urdu speaking from Nawab family. But Prime Minister Liaquat Ali Khan ran Pakistan. He was also assassinated on 16 October 1951 in Gordon College ground in Rawalpindi. So killing begets killing. Liaquat Ali Khan was in the conspiracy killing of Jinnah, and he was also killed. And in between, what happened is that the language movement took a shape in Bengal. In 1954, in 1952, there was a large gathering of students who were marching towards the parliament building, and on the way, they were killed. Many students were killed. The blame was put on Bengali policemen. Actually, Punjab police, under the leadership of Captain Masud Mahmud, a Punjabi officer, emerged from behind the trees and shot many students. Why? Pakistanis were on the opinion that Bengalis are a cowardice race. Every time they are creating problem on language issue, let's finish it one by one, once for all. Let's kill a large number of students. There'll be a dead body littered in the streets everywhere. They are cowards. They will feel scared and they will not go for any more movement. But they were wrong. Movement went on, and that movement culminated in the victory of 1954, the Yukto Front election. In that first time, Bangabandhu Sheikh Mujib, 34 years old, became the Agricultural Development Ministry. Now what happened? Pakistanis didn't want to hand over power of Bengal to them. They started creating law and order situation riots, and all the ministers were put into jail. And then, slowly and slowly, Pakistan emerged to be a military state. General Iskandar Mirza took over the reign of the country. He was kicked out by General Ayub Khan, who ruled Pakistan for 10 years under martial law. In 1962, students of Dhaka started demonstrating for education reform. That ended up to be a political movement. Ayub Khan gave an election. He stood in the election with the symbol of red rose, and against him, with a hurricane, stood the sister of Pakistan's founding father, Jinnah's younger sister, Fatima Jinnah. Ayub Khan won by resorting to massive fraud. And there was uproar everywhere, demonstration everywhere. With the advice of Pakistan's intelligence ISI, who advised him that please attack Kashmir immediately. Pakistan's people want Kashmir to be a part of Pakistan, the Indian Kashmir. So, with their advice, he attacked Kashmir. And it was a bloody mistake. Too much blood was shed. Nothing was gained. So Ayub Khan started losing his popularity slowly. But at that time, going to Lahore, Bangabandhu Sheikh Mujibur Rahman declared his 6-point program, autonomy for both the provinces, equal rights. He was put into jail, telling that he wanted to break Pakistan. He was in jail for 19 months. After that, a conspiracy case was launched against him, what we call Agartala conspiracy case. Pakistanis said that Sheikh Mujib was working with a part of the defense forces and bureaucracy, and he had gone to Agartala in 1967, discussed with Indian top leaders, and he was planning for a secessionist movement. It was all nonsense. He did not go 61 in 67 to India. He last time he went to India was in 63. We all know about that. And they decided to torture some of the people under custody, and they would give statement against Sheikh Mujib, and he could be hanged for trying to break Pakistan. But didn't happen. Public demand, street movement started gathering. Pakistan army killed one of the jail inmates, and next day they killed a senior professor of Rajshahi University, and a big movement was launched, and Bangabandhu was released from jail. Ayub Khan was in terrible condition, and Ayub Khan at that time couldn't control anymore, so he gave the leadership and the presidential power to Sharabi general called General Yahya Khan. Yahya Khan called his ISI friends and asked for his advice, and they said, give an election, there'll be no problem. Bhutto is too popular. He will win hands down. Sheikh Mujib has no money to run an election. He's poor. America, China, Middle East, those countries will give money to Bhutto for the election. Mujib will get no money. Najam Islam, Jamaat Islam, Muslim League, all will give support to Bhutto. And finally, they said the election will be under martial law. ISI will take control of the polling booths. What's the worry? So the election was held on December 7th and 17th. Bangabandhu Sheikh Mujib surprisingly won by massive mandate in National Assembly and Provincial Assembly. On the 1st of January, he told Yahya Khan, Mr. President, hand over the power to the parliament immediately. Yahya and Bhutto had some dialogue with Bangabandhu Sheikh Mujib, but there was no result. They went back to Karachi. On 17th of January, with 3 helicopters, a large number of generals, some bureaucrats, some political leaders flew to Larkana in Sindh, near the palace of Bhutto. Whole night they drank. They had told the media that they are going for bird shooting, but there was no plan for a bird shooting. There was a plan for Bengali shooting. We call it Larkana conspiracy. In between, the decisions were taken in Larkana to make a crackdown on the people of Bengal. Because if you don't, Mujib will capture power. He has massive popularity. Who will command that army in East Pakistan? Why? Tikka Khan. He is called as Butcher of Balochistan. When the Balochis were asked for equal rights, Tikka was sent with Punjabi battalion. He massacred them. Their numbers were reduced. Their morale were broken. And also what happened after that, lakhs of Balochis ran away from Balochistan to Iran, to Afghanistan, to Lebanon, other countries. So they thought they will send Tikka Khan and lakhs of soldiers to East Pakistan, mainly Punjabi soldiers. They will conduct an operation like in Balochistan. They will kill many, many people. Genocide will be conducted. Number of Bengali people will be reduced. They will lose their morale. They will submit. And out of fear, lakhs and crores of people run away to India. So their numbers will be reduced. That was the plan. But Bangabandhu Sheikh Mujib was a man up to the task. He knew about these conspiracies. So on the 7th of March 1971, he called for a mammoth meeting in Ramna Racecourse Maidan. About 10 lakh people attended the meeting. Bangabandhu Sheikh Mujib knew Pakistan's tactics. He knew also that Pakistani troops are very well trained in the deserts of Balochistan, in the hills of Kashmir, in the hills of Pathan Muluk, but and in the plains of Punjab, they have no experience of fighting in the marshy lands, rivers, canals, lakes, ponds all over Bangladesh. They will be drowned. What we have to do is then get them back to the villages where we can defeat them. Pakistan is a very well equipped army with American Chinese weapons. They are heavy weapons, tank, machine guns, mortars, artillery. They are no good for the shallow and riverine areas of Bangladesh. And he also had confidence in his people. Pakistanis used to call us a non-martial race. Bangabandhu Sheikh Mujib have studied history. Who are we? What is our antecedents? We are the children of Haji Shariatullah, Shamsher Ghazi, Netaji Subhash Bose, Pritilata Waddedar, Master Surya Sen, Khudiram, Prafullo Chaki, Titumir, Shamsher Ghazi, Hindu Muslim leaders have sacrificed their life and they are great warriors of this land. They have never surrendered, so he called for resistance. When on the 26th of March, the war, genocide launched on the people, they are surprised that East Pakistan Rifle, the police, the Ansars, the Mujahids, and the Bengal regiment, they revolted and Mukti Bahini was formed. But Mukti Bahini didn't have much of weapon and very less trained people. So India gave us weapons and training. Fascinating experience they had. Very high quality of training and guerrilla warfare being given to us. So the guerrilla warfare was going on. In between, we had 98 lakhs, 99,300 refugees, 305 refugees who came into India. Pakistanis thought there'll be riot over here. There's no riot. The border people of India accepted them with open arms. They shared their food with them. Indian volunteer doctors, social workers, all rushed to the spot and tried to save life. One way, Mukti Bahini was fighting the war relentlessly. In another way, our refugees were being treated and fed by Indians. And from the refugee camps, we had thousands and thousands of volunteers who joined the liberation war. My friends, we could not give training to so many people. There were too many volunteers for this cause. In our camps, if we had 10 dead, 100 would take their place, but we didn't have so much of weapon. That was a people's war, a guerrilla war. And the guerrilla war went on. Pakistanis did a lot of atrocities, not only by killing people, burning houses, looting their houses, and worst of all, they molested, raped women, and after molesting, they killed many women because they didn't have to keep any witness. When this situation was going on, Srimati Indira Gandhi, the able Prime Minister of India, undertook a world trip, went to most of the bigger countries of the world and explained to them the genocide being conducted. War was imminent and this genocide cannot continue. She also signed a friendship agreement with USSR, Soviet Russia also. And Indian army was all prepared. But Pakistanis didn't have that information. On the 3rd of December 1971, Yahya Khan was in Peshawar, north of Pakistan. He ordered the air chief to prepare 60 aircrafts, attack aircrafts, and attack 10 air bases of India, thinking that all the aircrafts are located there. This idea he got from the Israeli attack on the Arab Air Force. If he could destroy all the aircraft of India, their ground troops will be without protection. India was up to the task. They shifted all their aircraft. Only 2 aircraft received minor casualties. At that time, against the oppressors, against the attackers, Mrs. Indira Gandhi declared war, and Mukti Bahini Indian forces marched together with the help of local people at every stage. And we won the victory on 16 December 1971. It was a great victory. It was a victory, but at the cost of lot of blood. 3 million Bangladeshi people, either in the battlefield or in the refugee camps or being killed by Pakistanis while escaping from Bangladesh, or out of hunger, lack of treatment, due to the Pakistani atrocities, died. Indians also had suffered lot of casualties. 1,601 soldiers died in the battlefield. About 12,000 soldiers were wounded. It was a massive sacrifice by Indian forces. In the meantime, as you are aware, when the Operation Searchlight started, Bangabandhu Sheikh Mujib was arrested, taken to Pakistan, tried in a court martial, and was to be hanged. The hanging preparation was done also. But after the terrible defeat, Pakistan lost their morale, and all world leaders, all senators, congressmen, presidents, prime ministers all over the world started writing letters pressurizing Pakistan not to kill Sheikh Mujib. So Bhutto had to release him on the 8th of January. He came back to Bangladesh and took control of the country. He became the undisputed leader. My friends, I would like to say that war kills. It kills men, women, children. But what it kills maximum is history if you don't culture them. After the assassination of Bangabandhu Sheikh Mujib, pro-Pakistan regime came to power. Pakistan-type martial law was imposed. Anti-liberation forces flourished. So history took a backseat. Our friend in the form of 1971 were isolated from us. We went back to the lap of Pakistan and China again. But what happened? After 26 years of misrule, the daughter of Sheikh Mujibur Rahman Bangabandhu, Sheikh Hasina has taken control of the country. Elected leader she has become. Now we are back to 71, the period we love. We're engaging with India in the field of defense cooperation, political cooperation, economic cooperation, agriculture, industry, power, in every sector we are moving forward together. Together we fought in 71. Together we'll serve our land and make our friendship in such a way that we survive as the best of neighbors with prosperity. I always say the blood of the Indian soldiers were flowing, is flowing, will flow through Padda, Meghna, Jamuna, and Tista, and make our soil more fertile. And out of that fertility, more will grow. We are grateful to the leaders of India in 71, grateful to the people of India 71, and their armed forces of 71. Bangladesh is a grateful nation. We have honored our friends of Bangladesh all over the world, 339 friends. That was Sheikh Hasina's instruction to us. I was in charge of writing all the citations. Here, out of 339, 228 dignitaries were from India. On my request and on my submitted paper, Honorable Sheikh Hasina also approved another project, which is honoring every Indian martyred soldier. We are now in the process of honoring every Indian martyred soldier. Their families are being honored by us. And the first group of martyred families were honored by Sheikh Hasina 3 years back in Sam Manekshaw Center in Delhi, Shankar Bihar area. And the second event was in Kolkata. Due to Corona, things have gone slow, but we'll finish the project. God help all of us. Please remember that 71 was a terrible time for both our countries. But we stood united. We stood against Zulum and Zalim. We stood against conspiracy. We were drowned with a tidal wave of blood, but we survived because we are united. United, we can go a long way. Let history say so, that together we fought 71 and together we'll prosper with peace and tranquility, with the friendship that we deserve for our two countries. Thank you, sir.
Thank you so much, Karan Saab. It was so exciting. I was mesmerized. Uh, we have a common legacy. We have a common art, skill, culture. We have a common. You are from a land of revolution, even for India. You are from a land of art. You are from a land of aesthetic, and we are proud of that part of the country. I mean, it is history cannot be undone, but certainly it was something which divided us. We cannot at this after 75 years we cannot undo it, but we have a lot of common legacy. We are proud of it. 71 also gave us a moment where we can say that we are proud of that moment. And I must assure you, Kansab, I was in class 8th or 9th. I don't remember a single person in India who said in 71 कि भाई ये कहाँ से आ गए, कि they are, I mean, why we are supporting. The whole nation was behind Bangladesh, was behind was fighting for Bangladesh, and I assure you that the unity between Bangladesh and India should go a long way, and it must go a long way because it proves the world that इंसानियत अभी जिंदा है. We might be separated by boundaries, but we are one and only one. We have all the common legacies. We have Ravindranath, we have Nazrul, we have, as you said, we have so many people, a land of so many culture. Thank you so much, Karan Saab. It was always a pleasure to listen to you. Thank you so much. बहुत बहुत शुक्रिया. जय हिंद, जय बांग्ला.
Thank you, sir. It was a pleasure. And the end of today, we like to thank you, the people of your country, for assisting us in 1971. You had brought us wind of freedom and wind of justice. You are the dutiful people of your country. You had sacrificed so much of blood. But sacrifice is not defeat. Surrender is defeat. Pakistan didn't sacrifice, they surrendered. So that's the reason their name will not be honored in the pages of history for their genocide, the war crime, and surrender. 93,000 soldiers surrendered. My friend, Dhaka has 22,728 soldiers. Not a single shot they fired. 22,000 soldiers. Is it not a shameful episode? That's what our new generation should understand. Pakistan has always used and abused history. Now, history is abusing them. Look at their condition now. If you torture a nation, if you deprive them, someday you will be deprived. So they will face the consequences of the genocide they committed in 71. I'm sure.